The Unter den Linden, the street of the linden trees, here in East Berlin. 400 yards behind me, the Brandenburg Gate. And behind that again, West Berlin. And behind that again, the German Democratic Republic, East Germany, and behind that, all of the West. The Brandenburg Gate is a division not only in Berlin, not only in Germany, but in Europe and in the world as a whole. On this fine, sunny summer afternoon, lots of people from all over the world stroll around here on both sides of the gate. For them, perhaps the division seems a little unreal, but for the world as a whole and for the future of the world, the division is very real and very serious. The impression most people have in the West about East Germany and about East Berlin in particular, from very quick excursions, is that East Germans are a rather miserable people. This goes with the feeling that they are living in a country which has little of material comfort to offer to its population, especially by comparison with West Germany and with West Berlin. In fact, oddly enough, since the wall was put up, Germans on the eastern side of it have learned to live with their regime, if not necessary, to love it. The wall has made the further leak of skilled technicians from east to west more difficult. It's given a sense of physical security as well as isolation to the communist rulers of East Germany. And this has contributed to an improvement in the standard of living since 1961. And the people of East Berlin are now relatively well housed and relatively well dressed. They show it in a rather uneasy acceptance of their regime, while they criticize their leaders, Ulbricht and Stopf, for being old, boring, and ineffectual. They are impatient of the dull, old-fashioned brand of communism these people represent. But by now, a sufficiently large number of East Germans accept communism itself to make the prospect of German unity more difficult rather than less. One of the most potent images for change in the whole of Eastern Europe, and no less in isolated East Germany, are the feelings and desires of young people. Many of them are not actively interested in politics. Many of them, while not opposing the ideologies of communism, are certainly out of tune with its doctrinaire, old-fashioned nature, especially as applied by the fearful rulers of East Germany. And they insist on being free, at least, to enjoy themselves. The biggest noticeable difference in East Berlin between 1960 and 1965 is the amount of new building. The Stalin Alley has been renamed the Karl Marx Alley, and a great many new workers' flats are being put up in a style which is more the style of the contemporary world than the old gloomy facades of Stalinist architecture, where the tiles fell off the front of the buildings because of a wrong and hurried process. This was a symbol for a long time of the shabbiness of East Germany for the casual Western visitor. And this is now admitted, and that new flats represent a more cheerful front to the world. But rebuilding has not had great priority in East Berlin or in East Germany. The country for 10 years after the war was reduced to a state of hopelessness. On the one hand, the attractions of a booming West German economy, coupled with the repressions against private enterprise and private skills in East Germany, led to a long bleeding of East Germany of her best skilled workers, who fled in thousands across the frontier. On the other hand, reparations to Russia, which ended only in 1954, meant a drain of materials and the means of production, machinery. Since 1954, and especially in the last 2 or 3 years, as a committee of West German experts
reported earlier this year, production in East Germany has risen and is rising to such an extent that East Germany is now the second highest producer after the Soviet Union in the whole of the Eastern Bloc, and has been one of the very first places to accept and apply the theories of the Soviet economist Professor Lieberman in allowing incentives and production to be placed on a rational and local basis. It will, of course, be a long time before consumer goods are as freely available at such reasonable prices as they are in West Germany. Concentration will for a long time to come be on heavy industry, and consumer goods will take a second place. While the ordinary people of East Germany are constantly being reminded by West German television and radio of the benefits of life in the West, the East German government, as counter-propaganda, sets out an almost moral claim that East Germany is less concerned with material things, is more concerned with justice for everybody, and claims that it has a cleaner record in relation to the Nazi past. Here in the former guardhouse of the Prussian kings is a monument to the victims of fascism. The strange thing to a casual observer, and irritating even to many East Germans, is the curious survival of aspects of Prussian militarism. Traditions, one is told, die hard, but the suspicion that intentions die just as hard